We are in Lombok today, which is kind of a round island with a little bit of a tail right next door to Bali. In fact, it's probably known as Bali's little sister, or the less touristed or the less developed Bali, so maybe the next Bali. Join us as we travel across the island and visit one of our favorite spots in all of Indonesia. You're on Well Traveled Life with Jonathan and Jennifer. We thank you for being here, and let's go look at Lombok. The main city of Lombok is Mataram, and it is also the capital. There are about 3,500,000 people that live in Lombok, but they're predominantly going to be in the lower parts of the island. So the top part of the island has a volcano that was active as recently as 2016, Mount Ranjini, and you can climb that mountain and you can do some pretty great trekking and camping up there. At over 12,000 feet high, it is the second highest volcano in all of Indonesia, but it's a little bit more difficult to get to, and if you're coming from the port, that's a really long day. Not only is the distance itself long, but you also have traffic to contend with, so you need to keep that in mind. It really is the opposite side of where you would come into port. Up there, Mount Ranjini area, and when you look at the map, you can see how large a portion of the island that takes up. Most of that population is down south, and it's a fairly rural area. There's a lot of farming. Rice fields are predominant all over the place, and you'll see that people are doing a lot of subsistence farming as well as basic agriculture. We happen to be in town during the durian season. That is a seasonal fruit, and we just happened to be there at a time where it was really in season.
It's a lot of durians here. Everywhere is durian.
I think of durian as stinky fruit.
All durian there. Durian market.
It is considered the smelliest fruit in the world and has been compared to raw sewage, stale vomit, and all kinds of other sort of gross things. But it doesn't taste like that. It has a real custardy texture to it, and it has seeds, and both the custardy part and the seeds can be eaten, although you need to cook the seeds before you eat those. And the flavor has been described as cheese, almonds, garlic, caramel, all at the same time. But it was durian season, and so everywhere, all of the markets were full of durian vendors, and we met lots of people that wanted to sell us durian. As we left the port, we headed north and went through Manoran and then up to the wildlife park. And this is a special place in Lombok, and I think you'll enjoy our visit there. On our drive up, we had this fantastic array of motorcycles, macaques, and mosques. It was just a beautiful drive and gave us a good sense of the culture. As a part of Indonesia, Lombok has had a long history of conquerors. The Dutch first arrived in 1674 and entered into the first Dutch East India Company treaty. At that time, though, the Balinese were starting to take over. The Balinese had conquered Lombok and split it into 4 warring factions. It wasn't until 1838 that the Manoran kingdom got that control back from Bali. In World War II, Lombok was invaded by the Japanese. The Dutch that were there were not able to stave off the Japanese, and it went under Japanese control until the end of the war, at which time it was relinquished back and the Dutch took over for a short period of time until Indonesia got independence from the Netherlands. During President Suharto's rule between the 1960s and 1990s, Lombok didn't see the same kind of economic development and stability that Bali and Java had. They did have some of that, but just not to the degree. And so you're going to find that Lombok just is not as well developed. They furthermore have had a pretty significant food shortage. They have had some ethnic and religious fighting that affected tourism as an industry. So there was certainly a period in the 2000s where Lombok really kind of fell into a slump. And I think it is slowly coming out of that, but it is definitely further behind its sister islands. About 10 kilometers east of Manoran, we stopped at Narmada Park. Lombok is predominantly a Muslim island. Narmada Park was built in the Hindu style, and it was a former Hindu temple built by a king in like 1727. Narmada Park is actually the old grounds of the king's palace. It was the king from Bali who would come here in the dry season, and so it's called the Drought Palace as well. It was meant to mimic Mount Rinjani in its structure. It is a sacred space and is now just an open park open to the public, although there is an entry fee to go in. At Narmada Park, you've got really less a temple, more a park, and things to kind of keep in mind. It is a cash-only entrance ticket, so you need to either stop by an ATM or bring cash. They will accept dollars, though they would probably prefer local currency. And then once you get inside, you can get a local guide to take you through and tell you the stories and show you the places and sort of give you the behind the scenes, what those things mean. Although you certainly can get around on your own as well. But a lot of the signage is in Indonesian, so it might be hard to read all of the signage, but you'll get the idea. It's a water park, but don't think of that like with slides. Think of that as pools. And it has gardens and it has a temple. While I think Narmada Park is worth going to, you have to understand that it is not a Hindu island. You might get a more cultural experience by going and seeing a mosque, because 90% of the island is Muslim. That's predominantly the culture that you're going to see. You might want to save your Hindu temples for Bali and make this your opportunity to understand that different religion. So I'm thinking it might not be a great idea to drink directly out of the pools. Instead, you should drink the local water. Narmada water, fountain of youth. On our way to the wildlife park, we encountered makakis along the side of the road, and there's a significant amount of wildlife the closer you get up to Mount Rinjani. But the real sanctuary, and the first sanctuary in Lombok, is at the wildlife park. They have a collection of mammals, reptiles, and birds. Certainly the mammals are a huge draw. The Sumatran elephants are available for feeding. You can actually bathe with them, help give them a mud bath. This is Bayu. He's just a young guy looking for a girl. It is just not every day that you get to stand with an elephant and hang for a while and see what he's doing in your backpack. You can hold hands with Bornean orangutans. There's even 2 baby orangutans that you can play with. The sun bears remain active, and these bears were very social and interactive. Interestingly, a sun bear has a tongue that's long and sticky, and it can reach 10 inches. They're known for those big round claws that you're seeing, and that helps them climb trees. And they also can swim, holding their breath for up to 3 minutes underwater. And the pygmy hippopotamus are absolutely hilarious with their big gaping mouths. There's an entrance fee, and then you pay a fee if you would like a basket of food that you can then distribute to the animals. They'll eat out of your hands for the most part, and that's just a really enjoyable interactive experience. This is a sanctuary for animals. It is not a zoo. So these are animals that are all rescues, and they are cared for with their well-being in mind. If you have only one day in Lombok, going up to the wildlife park will get you out of the city and into that northern, more wooded area and give you an opportunity to have some really amazing animal interactions while you're there. But it is a full day all on its own. Adding in Narmada Park meant that we had to cut both of those a little bit short. And as I said earlier, you do need to keep traffic in mind. Lots of these are one-way streets, and there's an awful lot of different kinds of traffic. There are lorries, scooters, mopeds, horses, cars, and pedestrians sharing single-lane roads with very narrow margins. This might be a place, unless you're a comfortable driver, you may want to get a driver. And that's not an expensive proposition. This is an area where people are looking for work, and tourism is such a great way for them to make money. It's easy to find drivers. You can pre-book them, you can find them at the port, and they're going to be great. These are good people who are eager to show you their island. Thanks so much for joining us today. Make sure you come back next week where we're going to be in Bali.